Iran locked the most important door on Earth, then lost the key. That is not a metaphor. That is what actually happened in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran placed hundreds of explosive devices in the water to block the world's most critical shipping lane. And when the shooting stopped, when the ceasefire came, when the world asked Iran to help remove those weapons so that global trade could resume, Iran ran into a problem nobody had planned for. Iran does not have a complete record of where every mine it placed is actually sitting. The country that closed the strait cannot fully explain to anyone, including itself, what it put in the water or exactly where it went. 600 commercial ships are parked outside the strait right now. Not because Iran has warships blocking the way. Those are gone. Not because Iran has missiles aimed at every vessel. The Navy dealt with that too. The ships are sitting still because of objects the size of a large garbage can sitting on the seafloor, listening for a propeller. Waiting. And the entity that put those objects there cannot draw you an accurate map of where they all are. The global economy is losing $3.2 billion every single day. This stays unresolved. That is not per month, that is every day. And the core reason it cannot be resolved is not a lack of American military power. It is a missing piece of paper. By the end of this video, you will fully understand how Iran ended up in a situation where it cannot locate weapons it placed itself, why that one fact is the reason the Strait of Hormuz is still closed months after the fighting stopped, and why the solution everyone assumed would take weeks is now looking more like late summer at the earliest. Let us start with how the mines got into the water, because the way Iran laid them explains everything about why they cannot be found now. In late February and early March, as American strikes began dismantling Iran's military infrastructure, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps made a decision. They would close the Strait of Hormuz using naval mines. On paper, this was a smart move. Mines are cheap, hard to find, and take weeks to remove even under ideal conditions. A single mine that costs about as much as a decent used car can hold an entire shipping lane hostage for days. Iran had thousands of them stockpiled. The math was in their favor. The problem was execution. The operation was not run from a single command center with a unified plan. Different units of the Revolutionary Guard were deployed to different sections of the strait simultaneously, each working independently. Some teams used small speedboats, pulling up to a location in the dark, rolling the mine over the side, and driving away. No GPS confirmation of exact position, no central database being updated in real time, just a boat, a mine, and a rough area of ocean. Other teams dropped mines from helicopters, a method that is even less precise because a mine falling from a moving aircraft in any kind of wind or current does not land exactly where you aimed it. There was no single officer sitting in a room watching a screen that showed every mine going into the water with a precise coordinate attached. But here's the problem. Even if the records had been perfect on the day the mines were laid, those records would already be wrong today. And here is something that makes the chaotic record-keeping even worse. 2 weeks after the mines were laid, on March 11th, American forces destroyed somewhere between 16 and 28 of the small boats Iran had been using to lay mines in the first place. The crews operating those boats, the people who could have told you most accurately where they had been and what they had dropped, were gone. Whatever informal knowledge existed in those teams about exactly where they had worked, whatever notes or memory those operators carried about the positions they had used, that information went with them. President Trump referenced this directly in a briefing shortly before the ceasefire, saying that 28 mine-dropper boats were sitting on the bottom of the sea. The specific count matters less than the consequence. Some of the most operationally relevant people for a future mine clearance effort were eliminated before anyone started thinking seriously about clearance. And then there is the deeper problem. Even if the records had been perfect on the day the mines were laid, those records would already be wrong today. Because water moves. This is the part that most people do not think about when they hear the word minefield. On land, if you bury something in a field and walk away, it is roughly where you buried it when you come back 6 weeks later. The ocean does not work that way. The Strait of Hormuz has strong tidal currents that flow in and out twice a day, every day without stopping. These currents push water through the strait the way a river pushes water downstream. Anything sitting in that current gets moved. A mine that is anchored to the seafloor by a cable can swing in a wide arc with every tidal shift, covering a circle of water around its anchor point that can stretch over 100 meters in any direction. A mine that sits freely on the bottom with no anchor can drift hundreds of meters from its original position over several weeks as the current slowly pushes it. The minefield Iran laid in late February is not the same minefield that exists today. The mines have moved, some of them significantly, and neither Iran nor anyone else knows exactly where they have all ended up. Now, here is where it gets really interesting. Iran's own foreign minister confirmed this without quite saying it. When asked about reopening the strait, he said that process would happen with, and this is his exact phrase, due consideration of technical limitations. That sentence was reported by most outlets as diplomatic language. It is not. It is a careful admission. Technical limitations means we cannot simply declare the strait clear because we cannot be certain where every mine we placed is currently located. The country that created the crisis is telling you in the politest way possible that it cannot fully describe the crisis it created. You cannot remove a weapon you cannot find. And you cannot find a weapon if the entity that placed it does not know where it went. Think about what that means from a practical standpoint. Imagine you are in charge of clearing the strait. You go to Iran and say, "Give us the map, show us where the mines are, we will remove them and reopen the lanes." Iran cannot hand you a complete map, not because they are withholding it as a negotiating chip, because the map does not exist in a usable form. Some positions were recorded roughly, others were not recorded at all, and even the positions that were recorded are no longer accurate because of 6 weeks of tidal movement. You are not clearing a known minefield. You are searching for weapons in one of the world's busiest waterways, in water that often has visibility measured in inches, with no reliable starting point for where to look. You might be wondering at this point why Iran would even admit this. Why not pretend you have the map and use its existence as leverage in negotiations? The answer is that the pretense collapsed almost immediately. On April 9th, Iran's foreign minister used the phrase technical limitations in what was clearly intended to be a quiet diplomatic signal, not a headline. Within hours, American officials were briefing reporters that the United States had already assessed, based on intelligence from surveillance aircraft and underwater drones, that Iran's mine records were incomplete, and that significant drift had occurred from original positions. Both sides knew the map did not exist in usable form. The diplomatic fiction of a complete Iranian record that could be handed over as part of a deal collapsed before any deal was actually being negotiated. Now consider this from Iran's perspective, because this is the part that almost nobody is analyzing honestly. Iran launched this operation expecting a short crisis. The mines were not intended to stay in the water indefinitely. The logic was that the United States would absorb the economic pain for a few weeks, diplomatic pressure would build, a deal would be negotiated, and Iran would help remove the mines as part of that deal. What Iran did not plan for was a situation where the ceasefire arrived, but the deal did not. Where the Islamabad talks collapsed after 21 hours with no framework. Where the mines are still in the water, and Iran cannot fully account for them. Iran's mines are no longer a negotiating tool under Iran's control. They are now a hazard that nobody, including Iran, can cleanly resolve. Was this calculated? Was this a genius long-term strategy to control the strait permanently? Or was it a rushed decision that accidentally became the most consequential thing Iran has ever done? Think about that for a moment, because how you answer that question changes everything about how you see what comes next. If this was a plan, Iran is winning. If this was a panic, everyone is losing. Write your answer in the comments below, because that debate is just getting started, and it gets worse. The United States has been running a mine clearance operation since early March, but the operation is working blind. Without Iran's records, American teams are doing something that sounds almost impossible. They are searching the entire navigable area of the strait for objects they know exist but cannot locate with any precision. The tools being used are extraordinary. Aircraft fly systematic back-and-forth patterns over the water, dropping small sensor devices that fall to specific depths and use sound waves to map the ocean floor the way a medical scanner maps a body. Underwater drones roughly the size of a delivery van travel autonomously for days, scanning the bottom for anything that looks like it does not belong there. Helicopters drag detection equipment slowly through the water in patterns designed to trigger certain types of mines from a safe distance, causing them to explode before any ship gets close. Every piece of technology the Navy has available is being pointed at this problem. The problem is scale and physics. The Strait of Hormuz is approximately 35 miles long and over 20 miles wide at its narrowest navigable point. Even if you focus only on the shipping lanes rather than the entire strait, you are still talking about an enormous area of ocean floor to search. A mine is about the size of a large garbage can. Finding it on the bottom of the sea in low visibility without a map is not fast. Each pass of a search grid takes time. Each potential contact has to be investigated individually, and the investigation itself is dangerous. If you send a diver down to check an object and it turns out to be a mine, you are now in the situation of a person who walked up to find a live explosive device and needs to remove it while it is still armed and listening for a trigger. To understand the pace of this work, consider that a search vessel moves through the water at roughly 5 knots. That is slower than a person jogging. Each pass covers a strip of ocean about 100 to 200 meters wide. After each pass, the ship turns around and covers the next strip. Think of it like mowing a lawn, except the lawn is the size of a city. You cannot see the ground you are mowing. Some of the grass might kill you, and the ground you already mowed can shift position overnight because of tidal flow. NATO allies were asked to contribute minesweeping capability to the operation. The results were discouraging. Most European countries retired their dedicated minesweepers years ago, following the same budget logic that led America to retire its 4 Avenger-class ships 5 months before the war. The few minesweepers that remain in European fleets were designed for the shallow, cold waters of the North Sea, not the warm, deep, current-heavy environment of the Persian Gulf. Japan and South Korea have capable minesweeping forces, but both fleets are stationed in the Pacific and would take weeks to redeploy. The global capacity to clear this minefield quickly simply does not exist. There is another angle that almost nobody is discussing. Even after a mine is found and removed, the area it was cleared from cannot be declared permanently safe. The same tidal currents that moved the mines in the first place keep moving water through the strait every hour of every day. A mine that drifted into an area you already cleared can drift right back in. A lane you swept yesterday may need to be swept again today. This is not theoretical. It has already happened during the clearance operation. Areas that were declared sufficiently safe for a limited naval transit are areas that still need to be monitored continuously because the ocean does not hold still. Now here is where this starts affecting people whose main concern is not shipping lanes but grocery bills. Every day this stays unresolved, the cost of oil on global markets reflects the uncertainty. Traders who buy and sell oil for refineries around the world price in the risk that the strait might not reopen soon. That risk premium is baked into the price of every barrel. Oil is currently sitting above $109 per barrel. Before the war started, it was below $70. That gap, roughly $40 per barrel, flows directly into the price of fuel. Diesel that trucks use to deliver food to every grocery store in America. Jet fuel that moves air cargo. Heating oil for homes in the Northeast. Your gas bill, your grocery bill. The price of anything you order online that had to be shipped, all of it is elevated because of mines sitting on the bottom of a strait that neither the country that placed them nor the country trying to remove them can fully account for. The scale of the economic damage becomes almost abstract if you let yourself think about it in big numbers. $3.2 billion per day. 43 days, and counting since the blockade began. That is over $130 billion in global economic losses since this started. And the official estimate from defense officials for when a commercially usable transit corridor could be established is late summer at the earliest. If that timeline holds, the total reaches somewhere close to $400 billion. That is not a recession. That is a slow-motion catastrophe playing out in the price of everything, for everyone, because of a few hundred objects sitting in the dark on the bottom of the sea. This is where the conversation fundamentally changes. Iran went into this war and lost its entire navy. Every warship it had was either sunk or destroyed in 39 days. Its supreme leader is dead. Its military infrastructure was dismantled from the air, and yet Iran is the entity shaping the outcome of the crisis. Not because it has military power remaining, because of something far simpler. Because it put objects in the water that nobody can quickly remove, and because the incomplete records of where those objects are give Iran a form of leverage that surviving the war was supposed to eliminate. Iran is not holding the strait closed through military force anymore. It is holding it closed through entropy, through the natural behavior of water and current and time, through the simple physics of an object placed in motion in a tidal environment that does not stop moving just because someone signed a ceasefire. This is the strange position Iran now occupies. It lost the war, it lost its fleet, it lost its commander, and it is still every single day costing the global economy more money than most countries spend on their entire defense budget in a year. So here is the honest final question. The mines cannot be found quickly because Iran did not keep accurate records. The clearance will take months because the ocean is large and mines drift. The ceasefire has already expired with no replacement deal in place. 5 to 7 ships per day are getting through Iran's paid corridor, while 600 wait outside. Does this end with America clearing the Strait mine by mine and reopening it to free international traffic on its own terms? Or has Iran, despite losing every ship it had, permanently converted the world's most important waterway into a managed checkpoint where paying a toll to the Revolutionary Guard is just how shipping works now? One side says the mines will be cleared, the other side says the toll booth is already the new normal. Write which side you are on in the comments, because the people who say free passage wins and the people who say Iran already won the real battle are about to have a very serious disagreement under this video. And if you have not seen our video on why the United States Navy cannot clear the mines in the Strait of Hormuz, and why the ships specifically designed for that job were sent to a scrapyard 5 months before the war started, make sure to watch that one next.